Hey everyone, welcome back to Patrick Firearms Restoration. Today in the shop we have a Ted Williams Model T3 22, which is equivalent to the Winchester Model 190. This is a semi-auto, tube-fed 22 long rifle. And today I'm going to show you how to go ahead and fix very deep pitting on the barrel, and how to polish it and get ready for cold bluing and the cold blue it. This is also good on the magazine tubes. However, on this particular mag tube, I think I can get away with just carding it and oiling it, and this tube will look good. So to get ready, when you're going to do some metal prep for very deep pitting, and basic carding and oiling isn't going to do the job, you're going to need several things. You're going to need various grades of sandpaper, number one. So I have 150, 220, 320, and then I also have, for my finish, my final finish, I'm going to use a couple of strips of Scotch-Brite Fine. You can actually go higher than 320 grit, depending on the level of finish that you want or need. So before I get going and start with the process of doing this, I want to show you guys a couple of important things to keep in mind while you're doing this. Number one is, see if I can get this to focus, is where there's any stamping. If the area with the stamping looks pretty good, you're not going to want to go over this very heavy, or you're just going to want to hit this with the Scotch-Brite. If you go over it with the 150 and the 220, you could lose some of the markings. So I'm going to actually put a piece of tape over this before I start to make sure that I don't sand the markings. The second thing to pay attention to on any gun that you're going to cold blue is the areas that are in really good shape, like right here that was underneath the forend. This area I don't want to sand as well, and I want to keep this intact as a reference for what grade of sandpaper or Scotch-Brite I finish on. I want down here where it's all pitted when I'm done to have that same grade of finish that's up here at the top of the barrel that's been protected all these years. And then I won't have to cold blue this as well. Alright, so hang on, I'm going to go ahead and reposition the firearm, and then we're going to get started on the different grades of paper and how to do this. So as you can see, I put a piece of blue tape over the Ted Williams signature and the rest of the stampings. When I'm sanding up in here, if I start getting down into the area where the tape is, I'm going to stop and I'm going to adjust my angle a little bit with the sandpaper. I'm probably going to end up finishing this area just with the piece of Scotch-Brite because it's so soft and it won't dig into the steel and remove the stampings. So first up, I'm going to start off with the 150 grit. And we're going to do this in a shoe shine fashion. As you can see, I'm keeping the angle on this side away from the blue tape that's over here. But I'm also wrapping around this side so I can get as much coverage as possible at the same time. And you're just going to work your way down the barrel with the 150 grit. And we're going to stop back up in here where the bluing is good and where we want to match the finish. Once I get past the area of the tape, I can go ahead and do a full wrap around with the shoe shine portion and get more coverage. Make sure your vise is secure. Another thing that I'm doing a little wrong right now is because the gun moved, I'm probably applying a little too much pressure. You don't need a lot of pressure. Once you've done all the top half, now we're going to take the whole rifle and flip it over so that we can get the bottom side. So you'll notice on the bottom, the bluing that was underneath the fore end is good, way past the stampings. So we're only going to do probably the last half of the barrel. And just keep going and don't stop until it's cleaned up really good. I'm probably going to have to turn it sideways to get the left and right a little better. It's always easier when you're working in that down position versus sideways. So the end of this particular barrel, I was not able to get the front sight off. And then the magazine tube bolster up here is silver brazed on, so this cannot come off of this particular gun. So what I'm going to do up here is I'm going to cut my sandpaper into much smaller strips where I'm able to fit in and work around these components. And I'm going to try to take care not to dig in or not to get where I'm sanding on the sight or on the bolster too much. These are the areas that are going to require a lot of tension, and you may find yourself doing a lot of small hand sanding right in these little spots. To get that desired finish that you're looking for. Don't be afraid to take the time to do this right. And if you scratch this a little bit along the way, the bolster or the sight, don't worry, we'll just put some cold bluing on that as well, on any scratches. Just make sure that your finish level is what you've been looking for. You can see all the rust coming off pretty good. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and finish up with this grade of paper, the 150, and then we'll come back with the 220. Okay, so I've completely gone down the barrel with the 150 from up front all the way down to the back where the receiver is. The next thing I usually do, you just do this very lightly. I take a piece of Scotch-Brite in the areas I just did with the 150. The areas I just did with the 150, I'll go over it very lightly against the way I just did it. And what this will do is it'll dull up the metal a little bit, so that when you go at it with the 220, you can actually see where you're going and where you've been. So now it's got this dull finish to it. So then when I go back over it again now with the 220, we'll be able to see where we've gone with the 220 in this area and work from, again, the back of the rifle up to the front. So we're just going to rinse and repeat this whole process with the 220 that we just did with the 150. So I just wanted to show you this real quick though. This is the area that I have not been trying to get it to focus. There we go. This is the area that I have not done. That's the original bluing. And if you look down the other end of the barrel here, this is with the 220 grit. I'm still working on it, but you can see where I'm feathering it in. It's almost starting to match from the original bluing to the new scuffing that I'm putting on it. So this is the area where you're going to blend from where you're getting rid of the rust to the original bluing that you don't want to touch. So we'll keep working on this, keep feathering it, and probably switch to 320 next. Alright, before I go ahead and hit it with the 320 once again, I'm going to hit it with the Scotch Brite pad just to change, make it more of a matte finish so that I can see where I'm hitting it with the 320. When you get up towards the original bluing, ease up on your pressure, just go much less. And then just do less strokes to feather it in nice and easy. So you guys probably can't see it, but right here I got this one little pit that goes very deep. So what you can do to get that one particular pit to come out is don't be afraid to put concentrated pressure on that one spot to make that rust go away. Once you get down to the depth you want with that one pit, then go back to the old shoe shine method. So I've removed the tape from where the stampings are, and there really isn't much rust left. But what I'm going to do in that area is just go over it very gently and just remove any little bit of surface rust that might be in that area right where the stampings are. Just going to go nice and easy. Basically with the Scotch Brite, all I'm doing here is just polishing the bluing and taking a little bit of the bluing off, which we'll replace with the cold bluing. See if I can't get this to zoom in a little bit and show you the stampings. Everything's still nice and legible. We didn't go too deep. It took a couple of the high spots off, but you can see there's no rust left, so we're just going to end right there around the stampings. So in this case, this particular rifle, the 320 matches the original machining pretty well, the original surface finish, and the 320 is pretty good. Typically what I still like to do for one last polish is I like to go over it one more time with the Scotch Brite. So what I'll do is, again, I'll go lengthwise and dull it so I can see where I'm going. And then we'll go back. And this is our last chance to feather it into the original bluing. So I'll start a little bit off the original bluing and I'll work towards it. And as I get towards the original bluing, I'll lessen the pressure until I'm just barely putting any friggin' thumb pressure on the pad. Then as I come back out here, we can apply more. And this also takes care of any of the final scratches where we might have cross-hatched a little, or we might have slipped a little. This is our last chance to get the polish right before we do the cold blowing. As you can see, it's coming out very well. See if I can get you a close-up a little bit better on this surface here. You can see the top where it's super shiny. I still got to get underneath where it's still got that matte finish, but you can see the finish is really good. And then let's take a peek over here where the original bluing was. You can see the finish matches very good. So I'm pretty happy with this. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up with the Scotch-Brite, and then we'll go on to the next step. Okay, now that we got the barrel looking the way we like it, and we're getting ready to blue it, we still have to degrease it one more time. So when we do that, this time we're going to use isopropyl alcohol, and we're going to put some rubber gloves on, because at this point we don't want to get any greases or oils from our fingers back on the barrel, which could ruin the finish. I'm using Brownells T4 liquid gun blue, and this says, you know, remove excess oil, and then you're going to wipe on with a just a light coat, polish if desired, but we already did that. And then you're going to clean it up and reapply it. Keep going with small applications until we get the darkness that we want, that's going to match the original finish on the gun. I'm going to use some basic cotton balls for the application. So I like to always just kind of get ready and get some T4 poured out into a small cup. Don't need much, just a little bit. This quart bottle lasts a long time. So hold on, I'm going to change the camera angle back onto the barrel, and we'll go through the process. Alright, first thing we're going to do is wipe this down with some alcohol very thoroughly. Pay attention to the area with the engraving, because oils may have deposited in the engraving. Don't be afraid to get back onto the original bluing either. Clean that up, because if you overlap back into the original bluing, obviously you could pick up oils or greases from back in this area and then pull it up into where we just polished the barrel. Alright, at this point I'm going to let the barrel just sit here and let some of the alcohol that may be left over just evaporate. We'll be right back. Okay, so I got some cotton balls ready. I got some paper towels to wipe ready. I've got my Brownells T4 sitting here ready. I'm going to just lightly dip this in. Don't need a lot. I'm going to let it soak into the cotton pad a little bit so it's not all like right there. And then we're just going to make nice, long, even strokes on this from the top to the bottom. Get that first layer of color on there. Make sure to get around all the way around the muzzle. I like to let it sit on there for a minute, then wipe off the excess moisture. Probably going to need a few coats, especially up here at the top. Looks like we had a little contamination, but we can go back and fix these spots right here. We can repolish and then make sure we degrease a little better the next time and get these spots afterwards. But we can get the majority of the body done. So now that I've got that first layer wiped off, lightly dunk again, let it soak in a little more. This time I'm going to start up at the muzzle here. See if I can get a little more color at the top. Make a long, nice pull down the length of the barrel. Back up the other side. There we go. Starting to take at the tip. It's important when you do this part to make sure you got good lighting to match the original bluing. Gonna let that set for a minute. At some point I'm gonna have to flip this over so I can make sure the top's looking good. Let me adjust this down a little bit so you guys can see what's going on here. Alright. I'm going to put a third coat on. The darkness is looking really good over its overall length. Again, long, nice pulls. Need a little more at the muzzle end here. Not quite covered with the long poles because the sight's in the way. A little difficult to work around. Again, you don't need much of this T4, just a little bit. I'm going to go from the front to the back, make sure I get all the way back into the existing bluing. Okay, so the last thing you'll need to do after you get the bluing to the grade of darkness that you want, put a little basic engine oil on a cotton ball. And gently rub it in to set all the bluing in place. Only do this after you're completely satisfied with the look of the bluing and degree of darkness, because otherwise, if you're not and you want to go back and make it darker, you're going to have to degrease the whole entire barrel again because you just put all this oil on it. Usually after I put this oil on, I'll let it just sit for at least 24 hours before I do any more work to the gun, just to make sure the bluing's set. There we go. When we come back, I'll show you some before and after pictures, and we'll wrap this up. So, there we go. We're all set. Thanks again for joining us in this episode of Patchogue Firearms Restorations. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and I'll catch all you cats on the next video.